We are thrilled to have the amazing Amanda Neely back with us for this episode. Amanda is a certified financial planner, entrepreneur, and CEO of Wealth Wisdom Financial. Look, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by money or stuck in an endless cycle of worry around your finances, you're not alone. And this episode is for you. Amanda joins us to share her powerful approach to breaking free from money stress, shifting how we view our finances, and finding clarity amidst all the noise. This is a conversation full of wisdom, practical insights, and a dose of real talk about navigating life's messy money moments with some grace, self-compassion, and yes, even a little bit of fun. So settle in and join us as we learn how to break free from money stress with Amanda Neely. Hi there. Welcome to the Empowered and Embodied Show. I'm Kim Romaine.
And I'm Louise Neal. We're two transformational coaches who are also fellow travelers on the path of growth and self-discovery. And we're inviting you along for the ride.
That's right. We're right here in the trenches with you, navigating the ups and downs of life. And each week we'll be sharing our own experiences, bringing you conversations with amazing guests, and exploring insights and strategies that have helped us find more clarity, confidence, and ease in our lives.
And trust us, we do not have it all figured out. We're learning and growing right alongside you.
So if you're ready to rise above the chaos, doubt, and confusion that sometimes life throws our way,
and step into a more empowered and embodied version of yourself,
then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Empowered and Embodied Show. I am Kim, and my lovely co-host, as always, here is
Louise. Here I am today, and we are joined by our wonderful guest,
Amanda Neely. Hi.
Amanda. We love Amanda. Amanda was on the show before it became the Empowered and Embodied Show, and we are super excited to have you back for another conversation. We're going to let the world know all about you again in just a minute, but first we want to start this week, as we start every week. What are we celebrating this week?
Yeah, when we're recording this show, lots to celebrate. We launched a new website. My son is almost done with soccer for the fall. Glad to have that wrapped up and can get back to like normal life, whatever that means. And also just celebrating like it's a good time to be alive.
A lot of people aren't feeling that, so I like hearing that.
I know. You got it compared to what, right? Like,
I agree. I don't disagree with that. Yeah. Louise, how about you?
I'm celebrating today my openness. I had the opportunity to present kind of like my business in front of some, other pretty fantastic business owners, in the hopes of like getting some feedback and collaborating. And I don't take feedback all that well. And so I was like just really trying hard to like just go into the conversation and just know people are there to support me. Feedback is fantastic. I don't have to take it all. I get to take what I want and leave the rest. And folks had amazing ideas, and they were amazingly supportive and inspiring. And instead of like dreading like this, how I was going to feel after like, all crunchy and yucky after getting feedback, I thought my business was going to be like ripped apart. I like came away like motivated and inspired, and it was just really cool. And so I love having a community that can support me and do that for me. And I'm kind of like celebrating myself too, because I didn't let the old story get in the way. And I just really like stepped in with an open mind. So I'm celebrating that today.
Well-deserved. That is a well-deserved celebration, because feedback, even if you're good at receiving feedback, like that is raw. That's hard. That's vulnerable. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, That's awesome. And kind of a through thread, right? Because like Amanda, you're celebrating like it's a good time to be alive, and it's a good time to step in, is what I'm hearing from Louise. Like it's a good time to lean in and receive. And I'm going to continue that thread, I think. I had an opportunity to get together within my community, the Rising Visionaries, this morning and run a visioning session. And I love running the visioning sessions. And I had already done my pre-work, but as I run it, I always get new ideas. And so I'm continuing to write. And one of the things that came through to me was this idea of help. And I've gotten pretty good at asking for help over the years. And what I realized today is I can up level that again. And I'm ready to up level that again. And so it's finding that those spaces between what I know I want as an outcome. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And the process, which is something I'm not looking forward to. And so what help can I get so I can bridge that gap between those two so that I can get to the outcomes without it feeling quite as heavy as it needs to. Right. So it could be help of like actual logistical help, but it could also be help of, hey, Amanda and Louise, I have this thing to do. Can you just cheer me along? Can you talk to me about it as I'm going through it? Can you give me feedback? So that place of receiving and the openness to receiving and receiving the fact that it is a good time to be alive, because that is a celebration of being alive, is what I'm hearing as well. So I love our celebrations. Yay. Amanda, I am going to let the world know a little bit more about you. I'm not going to say all about you because it's 3 paragraphs is not all about you. All right. Amanda is the CEO of Wealth Wisdom Financial. She's a certified financial planner and a profit first bank on yourself professional. She is also a published author, go get the book, and co-host of the Wealth Wisdom Financial podcast, a fantastic podcast, by the way. From 2008 to 2018, Amanda and her husband, Brandon, owned and operated Overflow Coffee Bar. They sold the business to a nonprofit and now co-own Wealth Wisdom Financial. As a dedicated financial ally, Amanda shares her business experience by offering a holistic approach to financial planning. She addresses not only the financial aspects, but also the emotional and psychological factors that influence financial decisions. She is a goddess. That's not in her bio, but I'm letting you know she is.
Thank you. I'll own that.
Yay! And Amanda, I love that. So I've known you for some time, and I love that there is this balance to what you bring. And I'm not a big balance fan. We all know this, but this idea of harmony, this idea of synergy, of finance, money, this place that can be sticky and crunchy and icky for so many people, is just a component of who we are within society. And I feel like that's what you bring forward. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. If you think about it, like what you use the word goddess, like the things we make like gods are things that we kind of feel separated from, that are like holy, right? Like set apart from us, that kind of thing. And for some people, the power and the intimidation of money makes it very godlike to us. And that comes with all kinds of baggage, right? That all kinds of religion and spirituality, like might rear up in us. And I feel like sometimes, and even just psychology, right? Like, how we think about the divine, or, whatever, that can bring up in us all kinds of feelings that make a lot of people avoid or shut down whenever they think about money. And I love to instead of it feeling like this foreign thing, this thing that's set apart, that's different, it's actually just a tool, like a hammer. like a screwdriver. We know how to use those tools, and we can, if we're showed how to use it, it feels like, oh yeah, I know exactly how to hammer a nail now, right? Like those kind of things. Or maybe it's a nail file or whatever kind of tool you're like, yeah, I can use that tool. That's the kind of way I love to help people approach money. It's like, you already know how to do this. You just need somebody to help activate that within you.
Well, it's even in like the name of your company, like Wealth Wisdom. It to me, I almost feel like you're like, how do we take something that's out there that doesn't feel like we have control over, or that it has control over us? And actually it's like, no, like, wait a minute. Like I have the capacity and I have the wisdom to be able to use the tool. And like that really, like, I think flips the script on how we often think about wealth, and that it's actually, wealth is comes from inside us first, and it's not this outside thing that feels pressure, puts pressure on us.
Yes, absolutely. Wealth is not just money, right? Like 100%. We talk about that all the time. And like to kind of go along with that, wherever people are in their belief system, I think we can all agree that money is man-made, like human-made money.
Yes.
And so as humans, it is not over us, it is under us. Like, and we can control it and have more power over it than we think. And so that's why I love that you guys rebranded your show and now Empowered and Embodied. It's like, let's talk about how that works with money too, right? We can't take money into ourselves, physically, but we do a lot.
Yeah. Well, and when I heard you describing, right, this idea of God, goddess, spiritual, right, things that we think we need to ascend to, money is not one of them. We don't need to ascend to money. And so what are some of the, I'm just going to go all the way in here. What are some of the empowerment stories that you could share with us around money, whether they're personal from yourself or from your clients?
Yeah. So here, I learned a way to express this that I didn't realize in high school. So I studied music a lot. Like I was in the band. I was a band nerd. Yes, I'm one of those people. And one of my teachers was like amazing, a percussionist, had tried out, for I think the Cincinnati Orchestra, like different things like that. And then another teacher that was more in the media side of music, like digital music, things like that. And he was also going to try out as a percussionist for this same orchestra. And there was an audition piece that was one of the hardest timpani pieces ever. And the guy that was the percussionist couldn't figure it out, could only play like the first, couple lines of music and couldn't get past that. Whereas the media guy didn't know it was supposed to be hard. And so he figured it out and he could play it. And when I think about that, when it comes to money, like I remember as a middle schooler, my parents fighting about money. And I just didn't want them fighting anymore. And so I sat my mom down at the kitchen table and we, added up all of her credit cards. We, looked at all the bills. We put together a budget. I sat down with her month after month and helped her write out all the checks. This is, the 90s, right? Different time. And we figured it out. I didn't know it was supposed to be hard. And it's like we build this up in us that it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be complicated, overwhelming, stressful, and it doesn't have to be. And actually, if we put that aside and we say, okay, what if this was easy? What if this was simple? What would it look like? And we just do our best from there. Amazing things can happen. Amazing things.
Yeah, there is this place that we as humans are really good at overcomplicating things. Really? I mean, yeah, Amanda's pointing to herself. 100%. I feel like the queen of overcomplication. So I am not physically in my normal space today. I was sharing before the show that we're having the roof replaced, and instead of trying to record a show with banging and scraping and stomping right above my head, I thought, probably just make it a little easier on myself and go to the local co-working space, which is where I am. And for me to do it meant taking every little component that I needed, every little technological and spiritual component that I want with me for the day. And as I was sitting there, as I was building up this like go pack, I looked at it, I said, how can I simplify? How can I make this easier? Because I'm right, that's a lot of kind of my brand anyway, is like find the ease. But that idea of how can we find a way to create simplicity? How can we get out of our heads to think that this has to be complicated? Because I think that that's our default. And that, I mean, that in and of itself allows us to reclaim some power, because then the situation doesn't have power over us.
Yeah, that awareness that more often than not we are complicating things beyond necessity.
Beyond belief.
and then like strategizing about how to actually get into some action, some details, right? So actually questioning a little bit about what's not just holding you back, but what do you need to move forward? Like, so Amanda, I get real curious because I have people in my life that struggle with money all the time. And it absolutely rules their emotions. It rules like how they show up in the world, their relationships with other people, because of this really loud thing that's in their lives. So what are, like, I'm really interested because I'm going to share this podcast episode with my friends. I'll tell you that. So what are,
Wait, Louise, you don't share every episode with your friends?
no, but I mean, like, specifically, it's like you got.
No, I know, I'm teasing.
So like some strategies, like especially for beginners who are like, they know, like, you know, when money's crunchy, like it is, like you start to break out in a sweat when the bill comes in the mail or you see that email saying your credit card's due. Like you don't even have to go into the digits to start sweating.
Yeah.
So yes, tell me a little bit.
Okay. Oh, I got distracted by the sharing with the friends because there was like this little thing that I was like, ooh, I want to make sure. Maybe it'll come back to me. The interesting thing is that you can often start with, how do you solve any problem? Or how do you move forward in any area where maybe it wasn't so intuitive at first? So if you think back to a time in your life when, and I'm talking to your friends right now, right? Think back to a time in your life when there seemed to be a hurdle or something that you wanted to do that you didn't know how to do it. It could be with a relationship, with a work, with your kids, right? Like wherever it is, think about that thing and what did you do? Maybe you phoned a friend. Maybe you prayed about it. Maybe you journaled about it. Maybe you went and took a course. Like you did something to come up to give yourself more power in that situation and move forward. That's often a clue as to how you overcome problems in general and what is like your natural way to improve your life, to make good changes. So try that same thing with money. Like everybody thinks I have to hire a financial advisor, I have to take all these classes, I have to do all these things. Well, it might just be you need to journal. It might just be you need to have a conversation with a friend when money is a taboo topic, where you find a safe place to have a conversation about it. That slowly starts to give you that power, or maybe quickly starts to give you that power, but gives you that power that then you can keep building off of that. So that's like the first thing. And you might have noticed when Kim read my bio, we call ourselves financial allies. I'm not, I could call myself a financial professional, a financial planner, but the whole idea of an ally is you want people in your life that aren't going to tell you what to do, aren't going to do it for you, but are going to help bring out your own ideas, your own creativity, allow you to express yourself. And so you want to look for, if you are going to work with other people, because there's nothing wrong with that. Like, yes, build your money team. Make sure there are people that are keeping you as the the quarterback of the team or the CEO of your financial life, and they're empowering you to make really great decisions rather than making those decisions for you or just saying, oh, pass it over to me, I'll do it. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
two things came through while you were sharing that. One is just a quick little drop in here. I did some money healing work with Kate Northrup. And one of the things that she taught us about was this idea of money dates. And particularly when you have a partner, I know you've talked about some of this as well, this idea of money dates. So when you have a partner, whether it's a business partner or a life partner, having that opportunity to make it a date. So when I sit down with my husband, I would love to do it over candlelight and, chocolate and wine. That's not his style. So we bring in, chips or whatever and turn on music so that we can have time together to look at things that feel good to us as a couple. So that's just one little thing that kind of, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that part. And I remember us talking about that. The other part in terms of being the CEO, the quarterback, it's this place of trusted advisorship. There are way too many people in this world, and this goes for money and otherwise, that disempower us by telling us how to live our lives, how to run our businesses, how to create a marketing plan, how to get rich, how to whatever it is, how to have great sex, whatever it is that we're trying to do. There are so many people in the world that will tell you how to do it. And that is disempowering. That is taking away your power. So I love, 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 Amanda, that you and Brandon have put yourselves out there as financial allies, as trusted advisors, being someone who will say, yes, I hear you. I hear what you want. Based on that, here are some options. And working with what that person's decision-making prowess is, right? Because, or what works best for them, because all of us are different. But what we want to do is reclaim that place of power to work with trusted advisors instead of people that are shoved their dogma down our throats. Those were the two things that came out of what you shared.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, yeah. And I hear this all the time too from folks who don't even know they've given their power away, right? In all kinds of places. We just just say, right, it is beyond me and my intelligence. I'm just not, I've heard it all the time. I'm not money smart, right? And so we do put ourselves in this place of like, yeah, I don't have that skill. And that's just not really, that's not true at all. We have given our power away over and over and over again to institutions all over the place. I talk to my clients about giving their power away to their organizations all the time because we assume that someone else is going to make decisions that are in our best interest, and that's just it's not the way the world works.
Yeah. To give you an analogy here when it comes to money, the thing that I like to think about is like we all learn to drive a car. We get a driver's license, right? Or most people do, right? They learn how to drive the car. They know where to put in the gas, how often to get an oil change, how to tell if something's wrong with the car. We don't need to know all of the parts of how the car works underneath the hood. And, some people really nerd out on that and they love doing that. But if I own a car, I want to know where to put the gas, when to change the oil, and how to tell if there's something wrong with it. And I have trusted people that I can take it to that can let me know if I missed something that was wrong. And, I don't want to work with the people that might try to get me to do something that doesn't actually need fixed or going to overcharge me for that or that kind of thing. Shouldn't our money be a very similar way?
Yes.
And it's not, and you mentioned partners, if you have a partner, we ended up a year and a half ago, we ended up having a 2-car household. And one car is more mine, one car is more my husband's. He's in charge of his own oil changes. I'm in charge of, my car's oil changes, right? Like, and we still help each other. We still talk about it. Like, hey, I need to take the car and, do all those things. But it's not like I'm going to overpower him and like, oh, I'm the car person and you're the car person and I'm going to make you always do my oil change and always fill my gas tank. And, maybe that works for some couples, but at least like talking about it, having some conversation, knowing, oh, if he can't do it, I know where it goes, right? Like I know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it kind of like I hope that makes it like an easy like analogy that you can be like, oh yeah, I should know that with all these financial vehicles that we have. What are the levers to pull in? How does that work?
Well, I think that's, again, goes back to that place of simplification. Like, we want to be our best advocate, and sometimes our best advocate is pulling in the professional. Right. So I've shared on here before, my mom has been going through a breast cancer journey. And while I can read the reports and understand what I'm reading, I also turn to my cousin, who is a doctor, who's an amazing internist. And there's lots of doctors in our family, and having a conversation with this one cousin in particular and saying, what are you seeing? This is what I'm understanding. What are you seeing? And then he'll give me his opinion, and he'll say, but I'm not the oncologist. So let's understand what the oncologist is seeing so that we can help your mom make the best decision. And so it is getting those trusted advisors, people who are saying you are empowered to make your own decision. So all of us, everybody listening, all of us here on the screen, we are all empowered to make our own financial decisions. And sometimes if we're not into understanding how the engine works, or looking at the engine overwhelms us because we're like, bleh, then we have trusted advisors we could go to say, I don't want to actually know that, but I want to know enough so I can make the decisions that will work for me.
Exactly. And if that trusted advisor is talking way over your head and not fully explaining to them, or you have just a communication barrier, it's not like they're willfully trying to keep you in the dark. It's just that you can't understand them. Then you're working with the wrong trusted advisor.
Oh, I just need to jump in here really quick again and just say, if that happens, because going through this in the medical world, right, constantly using a language we don't use every day.
Right.
Stopping them and saying, I'm sorry, I really need for you to explain that to me in a way that I can understand it because I'm not in your world. Right. There's all sorts of I mean, Louise, you and I have gone through this, like when we went through our coach training program, right? There was quote unquote coach speak that we were using, and other people were like, what the hell are you saying? So adjusting how we're speaking, if we are the advisor, and asking for clarity, that is also a way to step into empowerment.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got really excited there.
And demanding it. I mean, I was talking to a woman recently who told me that she was working with a financial professional who she kept insisting for him to talk at her level, explain things to her in a way she could understand. He couldn't do it.
Yep.
Or he refused to do it. And so she fired him. She moved on. She found somebody new. And I was like, yeah, that's what you should do. Never let anybody gaslight you or mansplain you, anything like that. Demand to be treated in the way you should be treated as a human being deserving of respect and empowerment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a former attorney, that pissed me off too.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Louise, you were going to say something.
Well, no, we're talking here about, right, speaking up for ourselves, like really like fully embodying, fully being in ourselves so that we can advocate for ourselves. And that all comes with a practice, right? And so I just kind of want to like put it out there. It's like, you might not feel like you're like doing the Amy Cuddy, like, power stance and like saying like, hey, I demand. There's practice to it, right? It's not something we immediately know how to do. I think when we're talking about like reclaiming our choices and reclaiming our own power, it's like, you don't have to come off like all of a sudden, like bam in somebody's face. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like, how do you authentically step in and own your own power in a way that feels really good? And the stepping in means small steps. It doesn't mean you have to jump all the way in, but there's intention around that, right? Like Amanda, like you were saying, it's like start paying attention so that you can start making more intentional, asking more intentional questions, making some intentional small moves and different choices. But it comes first from that awareness, and then second from like making those small changes to start to kind of like begin to feel what that's like, because we don't feel enough. we get stuck in our heads. And then we were like, but logically, I listen to this podcast and I should just like own my own financial destiny. And I should. And it's like, oh, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right? That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying like, how do you like fully embody that and reclaim it?
Yeah, because I love that you brought that up, because we don't want that to ever get lost in this. Is all of our journeys are different. How it will show up in the world will be different for each of us. Some of us will absolutely, like that power stance. I can't stand that power stance. To me, it feels disempowering. I don't like it. I have my own power stance that fills me up. I call it a power stance because that's what other people call it, but whatever. It's something that fills me up, and it's very, very different. And so for each of us, identifying what those things are that give us the strength, the courage to take a step forward, to step into that ability to speak up even a little bit more for ourselves, to advocate for ourselves, even if that advocation, I don't know if that's a word, even if advocating for ourselves is asking somebody else to help us advocate for ourselves. So, Amanda, I know in your work, there's a lot that you talk about with stepping stones. And yeah, I'd love for you to share some of that as well.
Yeah. Well, so actually going back to when I was answering Louise, like, where do we start? You often look for clues in how you've solved other things in the past that you've wanted to solve. And one of the things I recognized for myself and my husband, we're very entrepreneurial. We love setting goals. A lot of the little minute details we could care less about, or it's hard to get into those. But that's also where you can find some really powerful things to adjust. And so we would get bored with budgeting and having those money meetings. Sure, we'd have coffee or ice cream or something, but it was still like, what are we really talking about here? We're just moving numbers around. And so instead of starting there with moving numbers around and budgeting, or, whatever you want to call it, we backed up. And now every time we do a money meeting, we start with setting our sights. Now, for some people, that's goal setting. Some people, that's visioning or making a vision board, or, journaling about where they want to be when they're 82, like lots of different ways to set your sights, but you kind of reorient to where are you going. And then I realized I am a big fan of acronyms. I would remember this better if I had an acronym. So we call it the STILL method. The S is set your sights. The T is track your in and out. What's come in, what's gone out. That can look like, heavy duty budgeting, or it could just look like opening your bank account and looking at the recent transactions, right? Very simple, or as complicated as you want. Tracking your in and out, what's come in, what's gone out. And then the I is inspect your progress. Is what's been happening recently with my in and out getting me closer or farther from where I want to go, where I've set my sights? And that's no judginess there, just noticing, reflecting, becoming more aware of it. Am I helping myself or harming myself in terms of where I want to go? And then the first L is to look for a micro adjustment, a very small change that you can make that would help you, move closer to where you want to go, right? And remember where you want to go, what is happening now, how that's going. What's a slight shift you can make? If you're trying to reach the moon and you're standing on Earth, you make a 1% adjustment to get closer to the moon. That's way easier than if you're almost there and you have to make a 50% adjustment to try to get there, right? That's the kind of things we're talking about, something small. And then the final L is live deliberately. Actually try it out. Try out that micro adjustment. If it works, great. You can keep going with that and try to build off of it. If it doesn't work, you probably didn't lose much time or much energy or much money trying it out because it was so small, right? And then you keep going with that, right? You come back to set your sights and see like how things are going, but you have to actually like try it and do the live deliberately before you come back and see what's worked or not worked. And we now do that. That's what our money meetings look like, usually with coffee, because we're coffee people, coffee dates. And it's been so much more fulfilling and impactful than just sitting down and going straight to the numbers when we want to talk about money.
One of the things that I love about that is that it starts with a vision, right? Which is so important. And Very often my money dates with my husband never get past the vision, and that's okay.
That's great.
Like that's at least we're having those conversations, which we didn't for a number of years. But what I hear throughout that is checking in with yourself. Like if it's going through the numbers, if it's just taking a peek, looking at the lived experiences, making that incremental change, each of those areas, though, you need to check in with yourself. So tell us a little bit about what that's about, like checking in with yourself.
Yeah. So especially when I get to the I, that's when the feelings usually come. And I'm like, how do I really feel about, I've got all these grand plans, but my like financial life doesn't always match those plans, or it hasn't gone like I want it to, right? Like I'm a planner, obviously. I want things to go according to plan. And that's when I love to take my time in that. And kind of like you said, if you just do the S, you set your sights, you're head and shoulders above most people who never think about that kind of thing. But also, if I stop at the I and I'm like, I can't find the micro adjustment, I'm going to sit with this. I'm not going to move forward, and I'm just going to allow the space to be quiet, to listen to my body, to, be open. It might be days where I'm sitting in I before I find that micro adjustment. And to be okay with that and to not rush through it has brought so much more insight and intention that I actually like, it's okay if I don't know the answer yet.
Just sitting with that, right? And not pushing forward. So powerful in a world that's full of like action and go and do. When we can sit with something and be open. And this goes back to the beginning of our episode, right? When we were talking about like being open to receive, like just allowing, right? There's even those biological chemicals that just need to like just get out of our bodies, go back to where they belong, like that whole chemical reaction that feelings are and emotions are. When we can just sit with that and let that pass, then we can start to see all kinds of things that we never would have imagined. And yeah, and micro, and who knows, like even like micro times two might show up, right? Like, who knows? But we don't have to push forward to the answer. We do want to take action, but we don't have to take action immediately this very second. I think there's action in sitting still. That's an action too.
Exactly. It's the still method, right? Like stillness, like the part of where this comes from, if we look at ancient texts, in my, world lens and how I've been raised, my culture, one of the ancient texts I look at is called the Bible. And the way that the word still is used there is this like anticipation still. It's not just to lay back and relax, put your feet up on the beach and drink a Mai Tai, right? Like it's a be still and be ready for something to happen that you don't have the power to do on your own. And for me, like when I'm still, I'm often doing something that I enjoy, that brings me life, right? One of my hobbies, spending time with my kid, right? Like things like that, reading a good book. But my subconscious is probably still working on that problem, right? It allows my brain to go to work and my body to give it the feedback and, all those things. And then, I mean, I bet if people think about like when you were looking for an insight and you couldn't get that insight, it came to you when you were doing something totally unrelated. And to be open to that with money as well. And that insight that you need to find that adjustment, it could come in the most unexpected place. But if you're so focused on it, it doesn't come. You have to shift and go do something else. And that's when it finally comes.
Well, and each emotional wave only lasts 30 to 90 seconds. So when we pant, like when we get to that place of, but I have to make a choice, we're in an emotional wave. We just need to allow that emotional wave to pass. And there could be another one right behind it. Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. Take it every 30 to 90 seconds at a time. And at a certain point, that emotion will clear. And then you will have clarity. That's what happens when emotions clear, is you get clarity. And that's why people have amazing shower thoughts. It's like when we're driving to work or driving wherever, all of a sudden we have all these ideas. It's because we are taking some sort of action. We are in stillness as well. And allowing ourselves that place of stillness is what clears the clutter because our brains are working so hard because we've trained them to do so. And we need to unplug to give it space.
Tell me what you think about this, Kim.
Yeah.
And I've been playing around with this recently. So part of like the example that I use there with you go do something different. If I find that I do something that I feel like is fun, something that I truly enjoy, and I'm having all those good feelings, do you think that helps bring the clarity even faster?
It can. It can, absolutely. I think that there are times when we enter it and let go, right? When we're entering something that feels good and can let go is where yes.
Yeah. You
When
get in
we
the flow state.
Yes. Yeah. When we enter it with the idea that I'm just going to do this thing, right? Because so often we'll be like, I'm going to go do my hobby or I'm going to go do my whatever. But we're still actively thinking through because that thing is so rote to us. It's so habitual that it's not actually letting go. So there is that place of actually allowing ourselves to go to the place of flow can clear space to solve the problem. There's also that place of stillness that doesn't have anything to do with flow that can also accelerate it. But that's more right. That can be a practice of how do we disconnect, and I don't mean meditation, right? Sitting on a cushion, like that can be if that works for you, but there are so many other things that we can do that allow our brains to disconnect from the problem that we actively disconnect, consciously disconnect. There we go. I knew the word would eventually make it to me. Right? Yeah. It's the conscious disconnection so that the unconscious brain and the subconscious brain can be working on what we're doing. Exactly. It's why when we wake up in dreams, we're like, oh, and then sometimes we can't fall back to sleep because all of a sudden, whatever it was, broke loose in our brains.
Yeah. I think we need to be aware of like how we disconnect our thoughts from the problem it's trying to solve. And that can come in so many ways, right? Play and fun is great because we really do disconnect from it when that play and fun is disconnected from our problem that we're trying to solve. Sometimes our problem that we're trying to solve is in our hobby or is in what we would consider that fun space. And so that's not really going to work. And I think too, for neurospicy folks, it's like really understanding how your brain works and like, how do you disconnect from that? You got hooked on a thing. How are you disconnecting? And sometimes that means getting the other parts of your brain really going and filling it so that you can disconnect from that. So there's that hook that our brains take. And it's finding your way to unhook from that. And it might look different depending on what you're hooked on. And so we can't default all the time to like the same, like, ooh, I had this great idea in the shower. I'm just going to go in the shower and I'll have a great idea. Like it doesn't.
Well, that's why I was saying that. Yeah. It doesn't always.
Yeah. I will say though, this is the Empowered and Embodied podcast that often, or show, that I feel like more often than not, the clarity comes when my body is moving. And there's something about moving the body that gives clarity to the brain.
Now, I want to put an asterisk by that.
Yeah.
Because there's always an asterisk. The asterisk by that is movement doesn't have to be big.
Exactly.
So movement, I'm going to geek out a little bit on somatics here. So our body have our primary language stored in them. We did not come out of we came out screaming and making gibberish. We did not come out forming words in whatever language we speak. So using sound and using our bodies is our primary language. And when we listen to the language of our body, we know how to move it to allow emotions to move through, to allow clarity to come through, to allow things to settle, to allow things to become larger, whatever we want it to happen. Our bodies are there, and we can do it with sound. We can use our mouths, but it's not about the language and the stories. And that's right where our brain comes in, is to create the stories and the narrative around it. Everything else is happening inside this corpus. And because of that, that allows us to any form of movement that feels right and aligned to us can create and can accelerate that pathway to a state of empowerment or whatever state we're looking for. But that's what we've been talking about. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I read recently. I was writing some author, I don't even remember who, talk about that. The reason that we get the idea in the shower or in the bathroom or something is because we were so hunched over, trying to figure out the thing. And we finally gave up and took a break and we moved. And it's actually because we're moving into that other space that we're able to have that insight.
Yeah, absolutely. It is amazing how this mind, body, spirit place that we've talked about in so many different ways. We've heard about in so many different ways. To allow that to be experienced is where we start getting, and I'm going to go back to the name of your company, where we start getting wisdom. And it doesn't work with like woo-woo shit. It works with money. Like it works with the stuff that we're walking around in society coming into contact with that maybe makes us feel less than, makes us feel disempowered. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to. I don't have money all figured out, but I don't feel disempowered by it anymore. And I felt disempowered by money for most of my adult life. And I will be the first one to tell you that doesn't have to exist, even if you're not great with money. Like that's just a narrative. It's not that I'm not great with money. It's that I'm working on my relationship with money.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we could probably continue talking about this. Amanda, we'll have you back again because,
Yes. Love it.
What are those nuggets? What are those little golden nuggets that we want to take away either for ourselves or we want to make sure that our listeners are putting in their back pockets to support them?
I'm going to say that just that word still is such a golden nugget for me today. It's stillness in the moment and what that can look like. Amanda, your process, your framework around what that can look like and being able to be okay if it's just stick. And it doesn't have to be all of it. We get to stop anywhere along the way. So I really, really love that. I love that nugget. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I was like, what, did she just freeze?
No, that's it.
I know I got it after a second. Amanda, what about for you? What's your golden nugget?
I want to start, as I'm trying to help people have some kind of breakthrough with their relationship with money and get to a different place that's, a place that's working better for them, to empower them to get there. I'm going to start asking them, how do you get in the state of flow? What does that look like for you? And like, if you're like, whatever you're trying to figure out, like go do something totally different, get into that flow state and see what happens. I want to report next week, like that kind of thing. I'm looking forward to having that in my back pocket to use often.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I mean, let's think about the last time our financial planner asked us how do you get into flow? That's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I think the takeaway for me here that I would love for folks to think about is this place of disempowerment. Where do you feel disempowered? Where do you feel like something has a hold on you. Is it money? Is it time? Is it your job? Is it your business? Is it your partner? Is it your kids? Is it all of the above, right? Where do you feel disempowered, and how can you look at it from a place of simplicity? Where can I find a little bit more simplicity because it doesn't have to be so hard? It doesn't have it. Amanda, tell me how. I'm struggling for the words that you said to your mom, or you said when you were working with your mom when you were younger.
What if it were easy?
What if? Well, but beyond that, you were saying I didn't know it needed to. I didn't know this could be hard, or this was.
I didn't know it was supposed to be hard.
Yeah, that I didn't know it was supposed to be hard. So any place that you're feeling disempowered, offering yourself that I didn't know this was supposed to be hard. Like, go to that place of what if it's not? What if I'm just making it that? Yeah. That's kind of where I want to underline it. And see, I overcomplicated in my head. Yeah. So it took me a minute. So thank you for helping me and ask for help. Like, let's take that, because that was all the beginning too. Like, ask for help where we need it.
Yeah. Kudos to my mom to let a middle schooler figure out how to help her figure out how to get out of the financial hole she was in. Yeah. Not everybody would do that.
No. Teenagers are also a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Like, they're not grown-ups and they don't have all the executive functioning yet and all that stuff, but that's actually a good thing. Like, honor it.
Yeah.
Just saying. All right, my friends. Amanda, where in the world can people find you and do all the good stuff with you?
Yeah, wherever you're seeing the show or hearing the show, you can probably find the Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast at the same place. We show up there as well. Or if you want to just check out Wealth Wisdom FP, as in financialpodcast.com, you can find all kinds of goodies there.
Wonderful. We are again so glad to have you back on the show. Please come back and visit us again soon. We would love that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amanda. And thanks, listeners, for joining us for another show. We just can't say enough about the gratitude that we have for you tuning in every week. We're here to help you. We're not always guides. We're along on the journey as well, and looking for not just that spark within us, but how to use it. So join us next time on the Empowered and Embodied Show.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye for now.
And that's all for this week's episode of the Empowered and Embodied Show. We hope today's episode has sparked something within you. Remember, we're all on this journey together. If something did resonate with you today, why not share it with a friend who might need to hear it too? You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave a review. Your feedback not only helps others find the show, but also helps us understand what's most valuable to you. Until next time, be kind to yourself, stay curious, and remember, we're walking right alongside you. Thanks for being part of our community.